Right, exactly. I don't think we can run off to some other country and be okay. It's America. I will die in America. I'm not going anywhere. So,
I will too.
I mean, I might go to Mars, but that will be part of America. Yeah.
So Elon Musk is giving out $1 million checks again.
Again? So that's not waste of the money?
Whose money?
Government money.
Let's hope not. Have a look at this.
Thank you. All right. Hello. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right.
So as you can see, Elon Musk is giving out sort of these lottery kind of checks. The courts tried to block that because in my mind, it's illegal. Whether or not he ends up, paying penalties for these kind of things.
Yeah.
But basically, we're bribing people to sign his petition to participate in an election or whatever. I mean, it's hard to say, like, how do you classify this? Because in like English, how we say this is if you give something of value. If you're giving someone something, and it's involving elections, I mean, there's some shady stuff going on right there.
It's kind of weird, he's, firing people. Oh, we spent too much of money.
Right.
Like he's giving out people $1 million.
Yeah, so according to Elon, he thinks that this whole judge thing is really important to human history. Have a look at this.
And whichever party controls the House, it to a significant degree controls the country, which then steers the course of Western civilization. So it's like, I feel like this is one of those things that may not seem that it's going to affect the entire destiny of humanity, but I think it will. No pressure. Yeah. So
as you can see, he thinks this election thing is really important. And the other thing he brought up was really strange. He was talking about that they're going to lose probably, and they have to pull like a rabbit out of the hat in order to win, and then the rabbits need to go to the voting booth. And it was a really weird analogy. Take a look for yourself.
So we got to pull a rabbit out of the hat next level. We're actually got to have a steady stream of rabbits out of the hat, like it's an arc of rabbits flying through the air and landing in a voting booth. Interesting picture. Grok could probably make that picture.
And so I bring that up first. So all these things is because if you see, he's paying people. He's talking about, this is a really important election, and then he's like kind of talking about magically making votes in a way. That's who we're dealing with here. And it was really interesting. He actually claimed that he's getting death threats all the time.
But he claims.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know what to make of it. You guys haven't watched. See what you think.
And there were quite a few death threats, I have to tell you. I was like, my security team said, well, it's actually gone down from yesterday to today. It went down from 18,000 to 17,000. So I'm like, oh, maybe it's getting better, But you can see how crazy some of these people are. Look at the two sort of people that tried to assassinate President Trump. I mean, that was, and one, they both almost succeeded. So it's real. Like, it's not like some imaginary thing.
So 17,000 to 18,000 death threats a day? Is that
they're counting on that every day?
Yeah,
and we don't know that's the real or not.
Well,
they don't really show evidence.
He said it's not from his imagination, is what he says, but he says a lot of things. It could be his imagination. I don't know. The joke we make about Elon is like a lot of things he says is a confession. Like you kind of have it on your conscience. You feel guilty about stuff, so you kind of want to tell people what you're doing. This thing about this whole thing is like it really felt like a cult meeting, right? So you thought about that too,
isn't it?
Right.
They even pray during the time.
Yeah, true story. They actually prayed at his meeting thing. Have a look at this.
Allow me to pray.
Thank
If
you.
you'd all who want to, please join me, bow our heads and pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, we are thankful for and you and to reward people according to merit, and especially put your hedge of protection around Elon Musk, around his children, around his whole entire family.
So I just showed you a clip of it. The prayer itself was like 2 to 3 minutes. It was actually pretty long.
Exactly, Cole. Just like Cole.
You know, you're praying for Elon's safety, that kind of stuff. And then you guys don't have to watch it. Trust me, it's like 2.5 hours. So you don't want to. I'm saving the time. But I just want you to understand like who these people are. A lot of the Americans that show up to this thing, you notice who was asking the questions, like what kind of people?
Like mostly white dude.
It was mostly guys.
There was a woman, but
Maybe, I think there's three. There's maybe like 3 women.
That the Doge efforts are going to do things like take away Social Security payments and reduce other government payments like that.
What is your opinion on the Federal Reserve? And
as AI continues to get smarter, won't it inevitably see through its creators' propaganda?
Most of us here are aware of social media censorship, and I know you're keenly aware of it. Thank you for turning around X. Awesome.
Welcome.
Has the Doge team found any evidence that any of the radical left Democrats like Maxine Waters, Adam Schiff...
Your comment kind of about the Matrix is kind of ironic because my husband and I watched the first Matrix and the sequel yesterday.
I was listening to, I believe it was Patrick Bet-David. He called this perfectly where...
As you go about your decision making at Doge, how are you able to keep your moral North Star and not set precedents when it comes to overstepping democratic processes simply?
Do you think Dogecoin may ever be used?
Sitting in a bunch of little boxes in a bunch of different states.
And so what advice would you give to young entrepreneurs?
That people don't understand how close we are for the ship of America to going over the fiscal cliff.
Yeah.
You've clearly shown your leadership and team is capable of transforming our government into something better than what we see today.
First time I heard about population collapse, I think was from you on Joe Rogan. I grew up in the generation where...
I'm wondering if you could give some insight into some of the reforms or changes that Doge might be looking at for the Postal Service.
Into what's going on with our Supreme Court here. It's very important, and
So I was wondering, I noticed that there was a second Mechzilla being built at the Starbase.
When do you envision solving blindness and bringing that to the masses where it'll be for everyone?
The episode was how many lines do we actually need to cross in order to be able to find peace?
Calling out bad ideas on X. You do that like every 30 minutes, and if I don't see something, I'm like, wow, is Elon okay?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say, in your opinion, what is Brad going to do for small business owners like myself?
But that I saw is mostly the white guys.
No, it was definitely mostly guys, but there was a few women there. And they would ask like basically conspiracy theory kind of questions. And it's tough because like I don't want to be hating on our fellow citizens or our fellow Americans all the time. And on the surface level, these people they honestly believe they're conspiracies. So how do you deal with this stuff? Like they don't trust the system, so they think all the banks are out to get them. They think the Democratic Party is stealing all their money. These kind of things. Like I'm just telling you, what kind of because it all has to do with Fox News stuff. What's that?
There already believes in that, so it's kind of hard to change their thinking.
Yeah, and then
I think it's almost impossible.
Well, see, because that's what's tough, right? Because I want to believe that it's not impossible, but
yeah, but that's how cult works. Because people who believe the cult, they're kind of isolated.
Right.
So they want it to be in groups, so they're gathering with the same thought. And their leader, keep telling them the wrong information.
I mean, so what it is people don't have any hope. They don't have friends. They need someone to just like wave their magic wand, right? In Elon's case, it's
and your leader keeps saying you're the special. So they feel
Well,
there is something.
yeah, everyone always feels so excited to talk to Elon. It's a cult. But I just wanted you guys to understand like kind of what we're dealing with, because when you understand that this is a cult, that Elon says a bunch of just basically nonsense, you'll kind of get like why we don't trust him. Just be perfectly frank. Um, and the way that I've always said this, talking about Elon stuff, is if he had evidence, if he really believed the stuff that he says, and maybe he does believe it, who knows? But you would still present it to Congress in a proper way. Again, swear under oath. This is the truth. This is all of our evidence that we gathered. Because every single time he talks on one of these talks, he always says like, "Oh well, people question me, and they just don't believe what I say." And he's like, "Well, but all the stuff that I say is on the website, but they just don't look at it." And like, no, actually, we do look at your website.
And there's only white, the blank website sometimes, right?
Yeah, because his website gets hacked, but
And then he blames the who's hacking.
Oh, being paid. Yeah, I mean, it's like.
I mean, it was inevitable that at least a few Soros operatives would be in the audience. Give my regards to George. Say hi to George from me. USA, USA, USA,
It's hard to have a real conversation with Elon about this stuff. But the thing I go back to again, until he goes to Congress and swears in front, takes oath, nothing he says is real. And then on top of that, and I already know Elon's response, but I'll just tell you, like, if any of these sort of conspiracy theory stuff that he would talk about all the time, be it about all the waste and fraud, then papers and media outlets would all cover it, right? Like legitimate ones. And I mean legitimate ones because sure, you're going to see it from the Russian accounts and stuff like that on his Twitter, but you're not going to see legitimate people look at it. Like, guys, I literally look at the stuff that he posts, and I'll tell you, like, if anything's legitimate, and it's not.
I constantly hear that the Doge efforts are going to do things like take away Social Security payments and reduce other government payments like that. You've touched on it tonight, but
Yeah.
Can you you've discussed this at length over the last few months,
Yeah.
but can you talk again about how the Doge efforts are actually going to affect things like the payments and other programs like that?
Yeah, I guess it would be helpful because so I can just state it as crisply and clearly as possible that Doge will absolutely ensure that people get their Social Security, make sure they get their Social Security, make sure they get their Medicaid, and will not be cutting any legitimate payments whatsoever. Crystal clear.
Regardless of, let's say he finds a case where there's fraud, bring it to Congress, we're in for, et cetera. Or he had this presentation that was kind of a strange one where he was saying, look, all these, Social Security applications are going up, right? But like, people can get Social Security numbers when you're not a citizen. That's just part of how our system works. If you guys know this, you can also get a tax ID number. But it doesn't necessarily mean that these people are receiving Social Security. In fact, I don't know this. People who aren't citizens actually do pay into the system.
And
they don't actually get any money back from the system. What's that?
Example, if I had a green card, I get the number. I need to pay tax.
Right. You could get a Social Security number for the AG. But so like he uses a lot of misleading statements, or the phrase we say is innuendo. A lot of people fall for it. So that's why when we talk about the payments thing, you have to understand he's like, okay, we're not going to cut any payments. But then he's like, well, essentially kind of implied that we'll cut the payments that aren't legitimate, right? So he's like, oh, we're not going to cut any legitimate payments. Now, that little word there, legitimate, is really important to understand because people kind of overlook that.
Yeah, I guess it would be helpful because so I can just state it as crisply and clearly as possible that Doge will absolutely ensure that people get their Social Security, make sure they get their Social Security, make sure they get their Medicaid, and will not be cutting any legitimate payments whatsoever. Crystal clear.
He does a lot of wordplay like this, and I had to play it for AJ a couple times because you missed it also.
Yeah.
The other thing that he mentioned as well is like people asked about, are you going to check the gold at Fort Knox? Which is kind of a weird one. And he's like, yeah, I really hope we could because then we can bring the camera.
Yeah. Then what does that for your living? even if he does that.
Basically, Elon is like a influencer at this point.
They just want, hey, just with the camera.
Yeah, right.
And they get more attention.
That's kind of what it is, actually. But I mean, he does own a social media platform, right? So he's actually really into this stuff. But it doesn't mean you want this person running your government. It doesn't mean you want this person, like, for example, the latest news story was that he wants to change our system in Social Security to go from an older programming language called COBOL to a newer one called like a Java. They haven't disclosed exactly. And I asked people in our community to chime in, and we have a lot of people who are really experienced in programming, etc. And everyone was saying the same thing. Was basically, so Musk is saying I can do it in 2 months, but like this kind of project would take something like maybe 2 to 5 years.
And to be sure, he's not engineer. He doesn't know anything about coding. He doesn't know anything about the computer language, whatever.
Well, that's the problem, is that
I think he knows. That's the problem too.
Well, the problem is that people that follow Elon don't know anything at all. Elon just has to know a little bit more than them, and then use a lot of like buzzwords.
He just knows the language name, I think.
So that would be really cool. So I do think AI can be incredibly helpful in teaching, because you can essentially set up each kid with like a personalized AI, and that AI can then answer questions for each kid, and that actually can be very profound in learning, because obviously if you've got a classroom of say 25, 30 kids, you can't like spend. It's literally impossible to spend time with every kid individually, or at least you can spend a little bit of time, but not. Obviously, it's a 1 to 20, 1 to 30 ratio. So, but what you can do is you can set them up with the AI, and then you can, if things get stuck or whatever, if you want to, you can essentially guide the orchestra that way, and I think it could be a very powerful learning tool.
We say buzzwords, like trendy words that people can understand. And I'll give you an example. So one of the persons asked him a question, or the way she stated was like, yeah, my husband and I, we just watched the movie The Matrix last night, and you always talk about The Matrix, and like, you're just doing a good job of freeing us from the Matrix.
Yeah.
And so you have to understand, like, that's your regular person in USA. So Elon's effective in terms of like, he can talk to people like, hey, did you see the movie Star Wars? I'm going to build you a lightsaber, and we're going to have warp speed like the Millennium Falcon.
Build Cybertron.
He did. And that's essentially based on sci-fi movies. No, for real. I'll put a link to a video about that, because on their wall they had a bunch of like movie inspirations. It was Blade Runner, Back to the Future, one of the James Bond movies.
Yeah, so now it's spelling off.
What's that? Yeah. The Cybertruck is falling apart now too. But that so frustrating. So that's why we have to establish with you guys, if you because like so many people out there believe Elon, but once you establish that this guy doesn't take this stuff seriously, he lacks expertise. The people who back them are all liars. He hangs out with liars, be it Trump or any of these people.
And someone who tell him he's liar, they fire.
Yeah, and so then we say you surround yourself with yes people, like yes, yes men, yes women, sort of stuff.
Sometimes I wonder which one would win. The federal for interest rates, the board of the Federal Reserve, or a magic 8-ball. And I'm like, I think the magic 8-ball might win. So then I'm like, well, magic 8-ball is a lot cheaper. It's like you shake it, it says check back again later. I'm like, okay. Same thing. But I think we.
And then what was the most shocking thing? Well, shocking is the right word, but just disturbing, shocking, however you want to say it. When you see people that like go to these events to go hang out with Elon, and they're like just basically focusing on conspiracy theories, and they believe the stuff that Elon says, you're just like, oh my God, we're really in like.
Yeah.
What's the state
right now? Because he should be super busy, right? He runs like 3 companies, right? Big companies.
So theoretically.
Yeah, theoretically, yeah, right? But He should be super busy, but he likes to go those kind of events and spend time with them. Is everyone, the Congress, whatever company, they just yelling at him. They're mad at him.
Sure.
But when he goes there, people like cheer for him, pray for him. So he feels like he's kind of narcissist. So
No, he does like that. That's what people say. Yeah.
so he keeps going those kind of events.
And I guess as long as we keep this charade going, it's going to keep going on, and that's essentially the cult of America. So if you wanted to understand like why things are the way that they are, basically when people are having economic problems, so money problems, they feel isolated, they feel like they're no hope. They sort of live their fantasies through Elon, who communicates them through social media, through misleading information, memes, and basically lies and conspiracies, and people fall for it. So that's what we're dealing with, and I just want to show you who these people are. So do appreciate your time, everyone, and we'll catch you all in the next video. So bye.